for El Supremo Sanquinisto, and then he had nearly begged Harper to look into a problem in London for him. Another out-of-character move for Edward. Begging? Come on. Edward's desperation had pinged Quentin's danger signals. He hadn't wanted Harper to accept the job, but it wasn't his decision, and he hadn't tried to push her. Something was afoot, but whether the London job was a legit problem or just a dodge to get her out of Seattle, neither of them knew, and data was too sketchy for an informed guess. It bugged the hell out of them both. In the end, despite being busy with the investigation of her past and why she was a Greywalker, Harper had agreed to do the London job. She hadn't given all her reasons, but she'd admitted that running Edward's errand would give her a chance to look into another, possibly related, problem of her own. Quentin hadn't been entirely surprised to discover another ex-boyfriend was involved. This one still alive, but not in fantastic health by the time things were done in England. For a moment, he'd wondered exactly how many ex-boyfriends she had, but it wasn't any real concern to him, so he deep-sixed the question. He was with Harper, and that was the important point to his mind. If anyone had asked Quentin 10 years earlier what he thought he'd be doing by this stage in his life, observing vampires and dating a female PI who worked for ghosts wouldn't have leapt to mind. Nor would he have said applying his skills to inventing ghost detectors or dodging monsters while living under the streets of Seattle. It's not the sort of life ambition East Coast-born intellectuals and computer geeks generally aspire to. Even disillusioned ones who've discovered the world doesn't run on the rules taught to you in ethics class, and sometimes not on the ones you presumed in physics lectures either. On the night before Harper left for London, the ghost detector had gone off. Quentin was pleased when his prototype ghost alarm started screeching. He had surmised that ghost activity might be rising along with the vampire activity. His working hypothesis was that paranormal activity tended to rise as a body, not just as isolated actions of isolated groups. He had expected to find a ghost or two, and here it was. Except that according to Harper, it wasn't just one ghost he'd measured, it was 50. And they had come looking for her. Then they'd taken over the detector's speaker and blurted out the same message that had come from the dead boyfriend. Things aren't what you think. A few hours later, Harper was on her way to England, and Quentin was ferret-sitting under the streets of Seattle, puzzling over what the vampires were up to, tinkering with the ghost detector, and wondering how his calibration could have been so far off. After that, things got seriously weird. He and Chaos, the ferret, had been down in the abandoned sidewalks under the old part of town when push finally came to shove. They were exploring near the site where the electrocuted vampire had expired. Quentin hoping to find some clue as to why the other vampire, the survivor and aggressor, hadn't taken him out too. The area was in bad shape. A trash-filled space that had once been a single large basement room, now partially subdivided by long abandoned efforts to rehabilitate it into useful storage. A spill of crumbling plaster, garbage, lumber, and plain old dirt made a rat playground at one end, cutting off the small plumbing and wiring closet in which Quentin had originally found himself trapped by the vampires. Quentin was becoming paranoid and very jumpy. Ahead of him in the darkened room, the ferret leapt straight up into the air, chittering and twisting before she hit the ground on all fours and shot off across the rubble-strewn floor. Quentin had to dive and grab her before she made it into an unseen hole in the wall of the abandoned underground. Even wearing a harness and leash, Chaos was hard to catch. The ferret squirmed in his grip, determined to get to whatever was holding her attention. Quentin tightened up the harness, ignoring the little animal's tiny claws and teeth. "Give it up, two-brat," he muttered. "You are not breaking for freedom on my watch. Harper would skin me if I lost you." Normally she was a well-behaved little pocket pest, but since the first vampire incident...